Welcome to Women at the Top, where we share professional journeys to inspire yours.
Hello, I'm your host, Max Zhang, founder of Human Prosperity. Today, I'm very excited to have Taylor on the show to share her professional journey. Taylor, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Murphy. I am currently based in the greater Philadelphia area. I started off my journey going to Syracuse University for my undergrad, where I studied information management and technology with a minor in global enterprise technology. And my first job and first place where I started my career was at Fidelity Investments. And I had a couple of different technology roles there, but primarily served as a Scrum Master and as a product owner within our Fidelity brokerage technology space. It was also around the same time where the financial services industry was going through a lot of technology transformation, and I was able to really be a part of a group that was really embracing agile Scrum at that time and really moving away from a waterfall style approach to working to more of an agile Scrum way of working. So it was a really interesting time there to really get involved in agile Scrum, technology transformations, et cetera, and get a couple of certifications on my belt. And I say that because that experience there really led me to kind of start this journey within the digital transformation and technology space. So when I left Fidelity, I actually ended up going to Ernst & Young and serving as a technology consultant there for a couple of years, where I really was able to expand on the digital technology experience that I got at Fidelity and really bring it to other, clients within the financial services industry. Was there for a couple of years, got promoted to manager, had a really fun experience, not only networking with people internal to EY, but also really building some great relationships with other clients within the financial services space. However, I knew that I didn't want to be in financial services for the rest of my career, and I wanted to do something a bit more purpose-driven from my standpoint and something that really aligned with passions that I had outside of work. And for me, growing up as a competitive figure skater, I always prioritized health and well-being, fitness, nutrition, etc. And it was something that a lot of people knew of me for outside of work. I was always the person putting together wellness challenges at work or being really involved in the wellness programming at Ernst & Young and both at Fidelity. And I really wanted to pivot out of financial services and really make health, pharma, the life sciences industry kind of my next stop on my journey. And so when I left EY, I actually ended up taking a couple of months off to really reset. I had gotten a little bit burnt out working as long and as hard as I did and being a top performer. And I really needed to take a bit of a back seat, or a bit of a step back, I should say, to really kind of recalibrate myself and really figure out what my next step was going to be. And during that time, I got clarity on the fact that, hey, I really want to pivot outside of the financial services industry and really get into life sciences. And after a couple of short weeks, I was able to align with my current role now. I work for a top 5 global pharmaceutical company, and I am supporting our digital research and development division with their own digital transformation as we're enabling AI to cut the drug discovery lifecycle in half. So we have a very, very ambitious mission of doing that, and I'm really happy that I'm able to align, the skill set that I've acquired over the past 8 years to be able to help this company do that. So that's a little bit about kind of my career journey so far. I used to live in New York City. I recently moved out of the city just to get a bit more space and to have a little bit more of that balanced well-being lifestyle that I crave. But yeah, happy to be here on this podcast.
Awesome. That was an amazing journey. And as we said, the even top performers will eventually burn out, if you're not careful and not taking care of yourself in terms of, your physical health, wellness and fitness and things like that. So, and that's an important point I want to touch into a little bit later. So in terms of your current role, can you tell us a little bit more about, some of the things that you do at your current role?
Sure. Yeah. So at my current role, like I said, I'm a digital transformation and technology consultant. I work within our digital research and development division, and basically we're the technology organization that supports the research and development for this company that I work at. And what I am, my role has ebbed and flowed over the last couple of months, but really my intention is to make sure that we are working in the most efficient and agile way of working. We're a product-based organizations. We have a lot of technology teams that are spread globally, that are building incredible AI-based applications, platforms. And so my first kind of step going into this company was really creating our operating model and interaction model. Like I said, we're a technology organization, but we have a lot of digital partners within the company that we support as well. Scientists, other product-based organizations, the research and development team, et cetera. So I really needed to create an operating model and interaction matrix that was clear enough for not only our internal organization to understand, but how our digital partners understand how to work best with us as well. We're a fairly new organization, so we've only been around for about a year plus so far. So again, with creating a kind of new, especially in the way in which AI has accelerated everything that we do, it's imperative to make sure that we're all on the same page as we're working towards our greater mission. So I really am kind of this liaison between technology, communications, our leadership team to be able to put some of these frameworks and structures in place. In addition to that, I do some internal marketing of our teams as well. I just recently put together a pretty robust internal SharePoint site that kind of highlights a lot of the products that we support and the teams and our skill sets. We've stood up a whole organizational change management office within the last couple of months. We've put together some things that we call connect sessions, where the whole organization comes together to learn different AI topics that are relevant to our organization and relevant to the biopharma industry that we support. In addition to, individual sessions for particular roles for upskilling purposes. That's a few of the things that I do. I'm sure there's plenty more that I do as well, but those are some of the big rocks that I support within the organization currently.
Awesome. Sounds like you are pretty busy there. In terms of the operating model, tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what does that actually mean? Like,
yeah. So in this context, an operating model is how we interact as an organization, how our different technology teams not only interact within the organization that we support, but also with the product teams that we support as well. So we have several product line owners, product owners that support individual Scrum teams that are comprised of solution architects, software engineers, et cetera, to be able to prioritize and build products that help scientists and researchers be able to make decisions on what drugs to move forward with actually implementing and finding out what to actually spend their time and energy researching. So those are a lot of the products that we support, but with an operating model, we need to know how we operate together as a team and how we are able to actually ship products more quickly to our end users. And in this case, our end users being those scientists that I spoke about. So it's very reminiscent of the work that I did working in financial services. I like to say that I went from supporting money to now molecules. The skill set is still there. The skill set's very transferable. But I think my unique value proposition is I was able to take that skill set and spread it across different industries. And in this case, now supporting the life sciences and pharma industry. So I think that answers your question about the operating model. It's again, how we support not only the people within our organization, but how we support the product, the business, the research and development business, the scientists that we support, and then how do we form ourselves as teams? And in this case, we're leveraging a agile Scrum product model, how we best deliver those products to our end users.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And I mean, what are some of the specific things that's inside this operating model, though? You kind of mentioned Scrum and other things.
Yeah, so again, we're using the principles of Agile Scrum to be able to build out this operating model. And again, it's just aligning our teams. You know, in the past, the organization was working in a more waterfall way of working. So it's really, you know, shortening that delivery life cycle from the moment that somebody has a piece of demand, an idea that they want to execute on, to the time that that idea comes into fruition through our software engineering teams. And so in this case, those products are technology-based products. And so I was really supporting, you know, how we take, from a governance standpoint and from an operations standpoint, how do we take that idea from the business? How do we vet it? How do we make sure that we have the right budget associated with this product? How do we make sure that we have the right technology talent and teams that can support the build out of this product? And how do we form the team to be able to then iterate and work on this product, to then be able to deploy it and ship it out to our end users? So really, that was a lot of the work that I'm currently still doing. We're in the process of really solidifying that governance model and what that looks like. That governance model meaning, you know, from an idea to how does it get prioritized in our portfolio, and then how do we actually select it and then deploy it to the teams to be able to then iterate on it.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I mean, in terms of idea, being able to get the idea and able to implement it and get it out to the consumer as soon as possible, that is always a key. And
Right.
the aspect of it is really about getting the feedback, you know, as soon as possible, because the sooner you receive feedback, the sooner you can iterate the cycle again to make the improvement to the product. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so you kind of mentioned about AI as well. So that's a big thing. You know, everyone's talking about AI.
Mhm.
And talking in terms of operating model, I'm sure, you know, AI is also part of that equation as well. So how are you leveraging AI?
Yeah, so I'm not only, as an organization, AI is like fundamental to everything that we do. So we, you know, have hired top talent in the space in addition to, you know, using our own internal AI. In this case, we have our own chatbot technology, a GBT-like tool internally that we use. That's been incredibly helpful, especially because I joined the organization only 8 months ago. So it's really helpful just to learn all the technology and all the acronyms, especially within a global large organization like the one that I support, to make sure that I understand and can upskill myself really quickly. But within our digital R&D organization, you know, we have specific, you know, AI and ML teams that build out that AI technology and embed it in pretty much every product that we now deploy. So we use that. And then we also use, you know, I use AI every single day just to help with documentation, documentation being a huge part of it, because I found, you know, not in my experience, you know, in the last 8 or so years, what I've seen as gaps is, you know, just being able to document things effectively and being able to update documentation effectively when processes change. So I really use AI just to help with clarity of what I'm putting out, especially as I mentioned earlier, we put together these bi-monthly we call them connect sessions. And it's a way that we're able to share information to the larger teams. And I definitely leverage AI a lot to even help with creating slides and to make sure that the communications that we send out to teams are crystal clear and there's no ambiguity. So I use AI in that way. But as an organization, we embed AI into all of our products at this point.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You know, if you are not using AI, you're just be left behind. So it's so important to integrate AI in everything that you do. It is not just a tool; it's a thought partner as well. It's part of it, you know, everything now.
Absolutely. And now I'm in the point where we're even exploring like AI agents and what that could look like within the organization. I think that will be something that's definitely coming down the pipeline very soon. So I'm starting to dabble in that space as well.
Amazing. And yeah, you are doing amazing things as well, you know, in your company. So how would someone go about, you know, getting, you know, to where you are today?
It's a great question. So I think a lot of it has to do with taking a step back and really getting clear on what your goals are in life. And I'm not talking just about career, but kind of all lifestyle goals. Like, where do you want to live? Like, how do you want to show up every day? Like, who do you want to have in your life, in your inner circle? And I think, when I first started my career, I didn't have that clear intention of exactly what did I wanted to do. And I think very few people do. I think sometimes you need to take some time just to feel things out, try different things, see what works for you, see what doesn't work for you. And I think, looking back at my time in financial services, that was a space in my career. I was in my early to mid 20s. And I was able to try a lot of different things out. And I encourage a lot of people to try a lot of different things out, because you really never know what will stick and what could be of interest to you. I think back to my first job at Fidelity, and it was I was really supporting a lot of the incident management and change management through all the business units. But I got a really great behind the scenes look at all of the products that we support. And it wasn't my dream job. I actually really didn't enjoy that job whatsoever, but it gave me such a great holistic learning of the entire organization that I was then able to pivot that into, more of an aligned role as a scrum master and product owner within a specific business unit. So I want to also encourage people to think about the long game. You might not be in your dream job right now or something that you really enjoy every aspect of, but I think it's really important to make a list of every single job or every single project or person that you've interacted with, and really make a list of what you really liked and what you didn't enjoy so much. Because as you chip away and as you have more opportunities in your career, you're then better able to refine longer term what that list could look like. And that's something that I did earlier on, where I would try something out. This is okay. This isn't exactly what I wanted to do. But as time went on, you have more and more clarity of what that potentially could look like moving down the line. So I always knew, I still want to work for a big company. I want to work within a big organization, because, you have a lot of opportunities, a lot of different people to work with as well. I think being really good at one particular skill could be of something to also highlight as well, because when you get really good at one thing, you become known for that thing as well. So I think it's important to, first kind of cast a wide net, try a lot of different things, and then like hone in on one thing and become really, really good at it. And I'm going to flub this, but it's like that I don't know if it's like the 10,000 hours thing. It's like you spend a lot of time doing one thing over and over again, and then you get really, really good at that. And I think for me in that case, it's like really honing, my communication skills, being able to break down complex topics into digestible information to then be able to share with people and be able to upskill and communicate that in a very effective way. I think a lot of my digital transformation skill set, change leadership, being a really strong leader, being able to articulate myself in a certain way, having fundamental technology experience has been really important to be able to translate those more complex topics. And I think, again, also part of it is just enjoying the ride and enjoying the journey too, and really honing in and focusing on your community of people. Because I think for me in my career, as I'm focusing on getting good at, a skill set that interests me and putting myself out there for opportunities, usually that's where you find aligned people to help you along the way to open up some of those doors, whether that be a direct manager or, another senior leader within the organization that takes an interest in you. I wouldn't be where I am today without senior leaders across all the companies that I've worked for that were able to advocate for me and vouch for me and vouch for my skill set, mainly because I raised my hand for opportunities and I made the work that I do visible for people to recognize as well. So I think I gave, you a couple of ideas of how you could potentially get to, a career that I have now. But again, it takes time and it's not an overnight success.
Yeah, definitely. And with a life journey and with a professional journey, it takes many different steps. And as you said, it starts with exploration. You have to kind of explore and kind of see what's out there before you kind of settle down. And once you do find something, you do really need to dive into it and spend that 10,000 hours to become an expert, because people pay for expertise. They don't pay for a jack of all trade that doesn't have an expert in something else, in something.
Right.
Ultimately, at the end, though, what matters, is the relationship you build. Because if you don't have the relationships, it's not gonna be fun, you won't have the support necessary for you to go to the next level or move up to the corporate ladder. So.
Yeah. And I think one last thing I'll say on that is when I think back to when I was making that transition, when I was pivoting out of the financial services industry into supporting life sciences, I think it's important to be able to position yourself. If somebody is interested in switching into a different industry, it's really important to position your skill set and your transferable skills in that way, to be able to kind of have people focus on the transferable skills and the positioning and the storytelling that you can make of why you want to go into a different industry, because I think it makes that transition so much smoother as well. Because a lot of the reasons why I was hired at this company that I support now was for my digital transformation experience. It wasn't critical that I understood the industry. That's something that you can learn as you get embedded into the organization. But I want to encourage people to really highlight and focus on that skill set. That's why I thought, it's so important to be able to identify what you're good at and really double down on that, because that will take you far and that will be what aligns you to the opportunities that are meant for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Plus, always plus one on skills. And how do you go about? You kind of mentioned, spending 10,000 hours, to kind of honing on to it. But at the same time, there's a specific, maybe daily habits or something you do. Like, what are the things you do to improve your skills?
Yeah, it's a great question. I really take intentional time weekly to research, read, leverage AI to help me, depending on what I'm trying to learn in that moment, whether that's, enhancing an aspect of my leadership skill that I need to bolster. Right now, I'm really interested in storytelling and really kind of leveraging more of the creative side of myself, mainly because a lot of the work that I've done has been very operational, very logical, using a certain part of my brain. Now, I think it's so important, especially with the advent of AI, to really hone your storytelling and your positioning and your storytelling expertise. So what I do is I set aside one day or one afternoon a week. That's usually a Friday or maybe a Thursday, depending on what my schedule is. And I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I put my laptop on Do Not Disturb. And I really identify either a course or a speaker or a podcast that I want to listen to really immerse myself for a couple of hours in an afternoon or a morning to really use that intentional time to upskill myself. Because if you're waiting for somebody to give you permission to do that, it will never come. There will always be something that comes up. There will always be other things that are going on. It's an intentional practice to carve out that time in your schedule. So I'm very big on blocking time in my calendar for upskilling opportunities or going to a conference or listening to a podcast or having a conversation, one-on-one coffee chat with somebody to pick somebody's brain about a topic that I'm currently interested in. And if that's a conversation that somebody needs to have with their manager, about setting aside that time, I think it's wholly worth it. And that's what's catapulted me and built up my skill set and brought me to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important, in nowadays, with AI, with so much knowledge out there. And the thing is that if we're not leveraging all that stuff and not learning, we are stuck. So, and we have to be constantly learning, and having dedicated time is so critical nowadays. It's essential if you want to move ahead. And that's what I recommend my clients do as well. Just kind of block out, 30 minutes a day or an hour a day, and just, spend on learning. You have to be learning.
I think also on the learning piece, I think something that I've also been intentional about and that I've carved out time in my calendar for is also content creation. I think, especially for me, really building out my personal brand, like I've been leveraging LinkedIn a lot and other social media platforms, but mainly LinkedIn for professional reasons, to really build out my personal brand there and to be able to showcase the work that I'm doing and to really highlight the accomplishments that I've had. Because again, if your work is not visible, it kind of like doesn't exist. So really, if you're going up for a promotion or you're trying to just get your personal brand kind of out in the world a bit more, I'm really intentional on building out my presence on LinkedIn. And really, I've gotten a lot of opportunities from LinkedIn in the past too. So it definitely does work. And I really highly encourage everybody to really build out their personal branding on LinkedIn, because it's paid dividends for me. So I wanted to also share that too in terms of upscaling as well.
Nice. Thank you for the tip. And what other daily habits do you have to allow you to achieve the high performance?
Yeah. So I usually wake up pretty early in the morning. I'm one of the 5 a.m.er people. Also because I have a bit of a longer commute sometimes too, but I try to pick a time every morning to wake up, and it's usually 5 a.m. I usually spend the first 20 to 30 minutes of my day either in prayer or meditation just to get my mind right. I'm a person that tends to run a little bit on the anxious side, so it's really critical for me to get my mind right for the day ahead, because my schedules are usually go, go, go. What I usually do is I don't have an opportunity, unfortunately, every single morning to work out in the morning. That's my preference, but I always make sure to either get a daily walk in, sometimes 2 walks if I'm lucky, and I always make it a priority to work out at least 3 times a week. That's usually a bar class, Pilates, a jog if I can't get myself to the gym. But I really prioritize meditation in the morning, movement throughout the week, hydrating. I have a whole health stack that I actually just shared recently on LinkedIn of different supplements and vitamins that I take that really keep me balanced, especially because I definitely burned myself out a little bit in my last company. So I'm kind of building my health up from the ground up a little bit too. But I have a whole health stack of supplements and vitamins that I take, and just really prioritizing eating really clean and whole foods that are mostly plant-based, but I definitely eat meat as well, which has been helpful for the energy levels. And then, I usually try to really, when I'm in the office, I'm in my office 2 to 3 times a week. I really try to connect with people in person, and really leverage that time in office to really connect with other coworkers and to have one-on-ones in person. I think that's really important. It's something that I really was craving, especially getting out of COVID. Really craving that in-person connection time. And then also really, I'm not the best at this quite yet, but I've been really trying hard to not be on my phone as much during the workday. I really try to put it away in my bag or put it on do not disturb and not be distracted by it. I'll look at it maybe like after my meditation in the morning, around lunchtime, and then, before I drive home for my daily commute. But that's still something that I'm trying to be better at. Just because I notice when I'm on my phone a lot, my thoughts are a little bit more scattered. I'm not as focused. My eyes start to hurt, especially looking at technology all day long. But those are a couple of things and activities and rituals that definitely keep me grounded and operating at my best.
Awesome. Yeah, that's having a daily habit of meditation, exercise, and things like that is something that a lot of people know they should do it, but unfortunately they don't. So so what keeps you motivated and maintain that daily habit?
Yeah, what keeps me motivated is honestly just desiring to feel good and really desiring to be excellent in life and to really excel in all aspects of my life. I think I mentioned at the very beginning, I grew up as a competitive figure skater. So I really think, really putting in the time and the hours and the discipline and the scheduled structure in my life at an early age really served me well, especially in my career, because I was able to kind of build those systems and structures for myself to enable success. for myself. Was it always perfect? Absolutely not. Everybody has some aspect of a learning curve of figuring out what works and what doesn't work. But what really keeps me motivated is also just, hitting my goals and looking and doing a retrospective of, the last 6 months to a year of what I've accomplished and moving forward to accomplishing more and really being of service and impact to others. I feel like I'm in a space in my career where, I've accomplished a good amount. I'm able to work in an industry that I'm really passionate about, and I feel like I'm really serving people in a very positive way. And now I think as I look forward to, the next step, even in my career, how can I be of service even more, especially to people maybe 1 to 2 levels behind me who are kind of, working their way through their own careers, whether that be within a corporate structure or maybe for a small startup or maybe their own business. Because I know that, work kind of looks differently now today than it did in the past. So as I think forward to even what keeps me motivated is really serving people and thinking about how I can best serve people moving forward, whether that be through a coaching business or mentorship, 2 things that I actively do now. But I think it's something that I want to double down moving forward as well.
That's great. And, you coming onto the show and sharing your journey, I mean, that also helps as well. So, yeah, so you kind of mentioned, the burnout. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you overcame it?
Yeah. I think that was a big pivot moment, in my career for sure. I think for me around that time, I was feeling a little bit disillusioned with the work that I was doing. I was working really hard. I was getting promoted. I was traveling a lot. On paper, it looked like, oh, wow, she's doing incredible. And, I'm sure from what I was posting on social media, it was like, wow, she's doing all these great things and sounds like she's killing it and all these things. But I think the trap that a lot of people fall into is like, this is what success looks like. It looks like X, Y, and Z. However, behind the scenes, and when you get quiet and really think about how you're feeling in your day to day, I was feeling quite run down. I was really tired. I wasn't taking care of my body and my mind the best possible way that I could. I was living in a fast-paced city. I was living in New York City at the time. And I just knew in order for me to have, longevity and to be able to operate at the most high level that I can operate at, I needed to make some changes. And a lot of those needed to be big changes, in terms of, pivoting out of the job that I had at that moment to something else that was a little bit more, I don't necessarily think I believe in like work-life balance friendly, but just something that just felt a little bit more purpose-led and aligned. Because I think sometimes with burnout, you're working a lot and your energy levels are depleted. But I also think it's an indicator that you're not in love with what you're doing, because I think when you're really in love with what you're doing for work, like, not that burnout doesn't exist, because I think boundaries are important, but I think you're able to really go full out on something that you feel very passionate about. So I think for me, I had to take a lot of radical changes. I had to move out of the city. I had to clean up my health. I had to pivot out of the industry that I was supporting because it was no longer lighting me up. And I had to realign and take a step back and really realign myself with a mission, more so a mission rather than a specific company, but a mission that I really cared about. And so I was able to do that. It took a couple of months for me to kind of, like I said at the top, kind of reassemble myself back and to really get myself in a good mental and physical place. But once I was able to take a step back and do that, I just felt more re-energized and being able to attract more aligned opportunities that felt good for me. But it did take some pretty significant changes, and it did take me to be really radically honest with myself about what those changes needed to be and what was going to make me feel more fulfilled and happy moving forward. So I think for people out there that maybe contemplating a career pivot or feeling really burnt out or really stuck or unaligned in what they're currently doing right now, I would implore you to really take some time, whether that could be, a sabbatical from your current role or, a couple of days of PTO off or maybe a long weekend, just to like sit with yourself and be quiet and still and really see what comes up for you and not be afraid to hear and to listen to what comes up for you and really kind of be brave and take the aligned action that you need in order to, course correct. Because what it felt like for me in that moment, I felt like I was on an Acela train heading in the wrong direction really fast. And I needed to get myself off the train and to find a new train to get onto and to really rebuild myself from the ground up. And so I think, for me in that moment, it sounds easy breezy when I talk about it now, but there were some moments where I felt really scared. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. I had moments of doubt, but I kept on showing up and I was consistent and I had clarity about what I wanted. And ultimately I was able to do that. So I think those are kind of the makings of how to get what you want in life too. It's showing up, being clear, being consistent, and, really taking a step back, especially when you're experiencing burnout, because, your health is everything. Health is wealth, as they say. And, you only get one body, so you gotta steward it well.
Yeah, definitely. It's so important to find your why, your purpose. Once you have the purpose, and then everything else kind of falls in place. And if you don't have it, then as you said, you just eventually burn yourself out because you are not, it's not aligned with the value that you have, what you believe, and what, why you guys wake up every single day. And ultimately, without actually having to take care of your body, yeah, it's gonna fall apart. So both are so important, having that purpose and at the same time maintaining your physical health. And so thank you for sharing that. I'm sure a lot of people would find that very helpful. So, So in terms of your career, I'm sure there's many other challenges as well. Can you share like some other challenges you have overcome?
Sure. I think one that comes to mind is I'll think back to my time as a consultant when you're going into these big organizations. In a lot of cases, I was working with C-level executives. And when you think about being a leader, it's not always about the title that you have. It's really about the influence and the tone in which you show up and the tone in which you are able to express and be able to solve the problem that you're basically been hired to solve. And I think for me, what was a challenge is feeling like I had something to contribute and being purposeful and practical and like being able to solve the problem that we were hired to solve. So for me, I think in a lot of those cases, it was more of a mental game. It's like you had to get through kind of the limiting beliefs and the blocks that I had that was running in my brain around, I can't help, like I do have I do have the capabilities and the skill set to be able to help, but it's really that's that confidence to be able to be looked at as a leader and being looked at and having that influence that you want. Because in a lot of cases, we were going into organizations and helping with, technology implementation projects or change management or organizational change, et cetera. And so we needed buy-in from our stakeholders that we were working with to be able to want to give us the time of day to work with them, right? So we had to be able to show up as leaders and be able to gain people's trust and be able to communicate and be resourceful to these people to help them with their current challenges and to want them to help us and for them to want to help them. And so I think one of the biggest challenges, that I'm still also working through as, in my current role is really honing your influence and being able to show up as a leader that is clear and consistent and leads with clarity and calm and compassion. And I think that's been my greatest challenge, because not everybody is going to feel as favorable towards you as you may feel towards them, or you may be able to show up within the organization. So I think the influencing skill set has been a challenge that I'm still working through. But it's something that takes time and practice and repetition, like anything else. I'm putting my 10,000 hours in. But that's been probably the biggest challenge that, I've had to show up with, because again, earlier on, it was more of a mindset game where it's like, okay, like, do I feel confident and can I actually really help them? And it's like, no, as time goes on, you develop the skill set and you develop the confidence, but then it's like, okay, how do I enroll other people in our greater vision? How do I get buy-in from people so that they can trust us as well? Because trust is hugely important, and it can be taken away very easily. So I think that's been the biggest challenge that I'm still working through. I've gotten better at it for sure, but I think it's a challenge that has showed up time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, for influence, I mean, that is definitely one of the key skills for a leader. And ultimately, in some ways, you can even say, that's one of the two, I guess. Influence and inspire. If you're able to inspire and influence people, that's it. You are effectively, one of the top leaders. Of course, there's also execution, I guess. So
yeah. Absolutely.
As I said, it is also one of the hardest ones. Hard skills, easy to learn. Soft skills, very hard. And that's some of the things that I kind of help my clients with. Okay, so one last question for you. Sure. What's next? Now that you are already a pretty nice place. But what's next? What's your dream?
Yeah, I think my ultimate dream is I would love to become an angel investor one day and to really fund and help people achieve their own passions and dreams in business. I think that the next immediate step for me in my career is really developing kind of like my own coaching program in a lot of ways to be able to really help people with transitions within their own career. It's something that I do unofficially now for friends and family, and everyone for as long as I can remember, they're like, you should really do this as a profession. You'd be a really great coach. You would really be great at helping people, especially through life transitions and as it relates to their career. I just have a close girlfriend of mine. She just had a baby, and I was over there at her house the other day for a couple of hours, just helping her with her resume and her LinkedIn and making her feel confident about her skill sets and looking at jobs that she can, apply for, et cetera. So it's always been something that I've been incredibly passionate about, is really mentoring, people that are not only up and coming in their career, but again, people who've gotten some success, but are really looking for what's next and being able to transition into something that may be more aligned for them. So that I think that's going to be next for me, is really, starting my coaching business finally. I think I'll always have a hand in the corporate sphere. I love working for big corporate companies. I have dabbled in the startup world before, so maybe there will be opportunities there at some point, but I really love helping people with career transitions and transitions just in general. So I think that's going to be what's next for me, so I can be the most of service and most aligned in my next step in my career.
Yeah, and I agree. I think you would make a great coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Taylor, for sharing a professional journey to inspire others.
Appreciate it, Max. Thank you.
For listening, and hope that inspired you to reach the top. To get some help, check out our free services at humanprosperity.io.